Hello everyone, welcome to the Pushing Horizon podcast. This is your host Ash. After talking to him, just listening to that raw hunger, the mindset, the drive to constantly get better, it really hit me. This isn't just about running, it's about proving to yourself what's possible when you decide to take control. Alcoholism, man, that's one of the horrible diseases out there. I've seen it firsthand. I have seen it destroy people, rip families apart, take lives way too soon. It's brutal. It doesn't care who you are. But then again, you hear a story like this. Someone who faced it head on said, enough is enough, turned their entire life around, not just to survive, but to thrive. Running marathons, chasing sub 245, absolutely hammering miles week in, week out, building discipline on discipline while raising three kids, coaching, leading a team at work. No excuses, just execution. This is the kind of story that makes you believe again, that makes you stop whining at your own problems and start moving your ass forward. Honestly, I'm proud. I'm proud of what he has done. I'm proud of what he's building. And I'm so proud to able to share his story. If you take anything from this, it's really simple. You can turn it around. You can build your own machine. So let's get right into it and let me introduce to our guest today. Here's John. Hey John. It's
Hey, yeah,
absolute
sure.
privilege to have, and I'm looking forward to hear your story because as we were talking before the podcast started, you are a machine.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
We talked about it a little bit before the recording started. So how did it started for you, and when did this addiction came into your life?
Yeah, so like we were mentioning, I wasn't a runner at all. So running wasn't a thing that I did at all. I guess the only form of cardio I did was taking small little rest breaks in between sets at the gym. I was more of a that was how I trained. I was more of a I guess a weightlifter. Not even good at that, but that's what I did as a sort of a side hobby. I tore my knee in 2021, my meniscus and my MCL, and recovered from that. And I just started taking up walking. Walking was sort of the what I did to rehab and recover and get slowly get better. And then one day, and I still remember it was September 10th of 2022. I got up around 5 a.m. and had this urge to go for a run for some odd reason because cardio was not my thing at all. But I decided I wanted to go for a run. I laced up the oldest pair of running shoes I had and just went out terribly. I think I got like 2K done, but I enjoyed it. It wasn't something that was incredibly difficult, but it wasn't easy. Like I said, it was only 2 kilometers, so it was fun. Got home and the next day I went out again, and it started snowballing from there. I still have written down in an old journal of mine that I wanted to do 5K in 40 minutes was my initial goal. Right, that was my initial goal of running was to do a 5K in 40 minutes. Obviously, I've surpassed that by quite a bit, and now I keep going and see what I can do and what I can push my body to.
Taking a look back at where you are today, right now you are like incredibly fast. You are chasing 245 for the marathon time. And like you said, when you started, you did a 2 kilometers. So looking back, the way you are here now and back then, like what has changed in you?
I don't know if anything changed in me. I think I've always had like a certain drive, I guess you could say. If I put my mind to something, whether it's in business or personal or hobbies like this, if I put my mind to something, I'll really go all in and achieve achieve that goal. And I think running has just become that thing, right? So when I started, like I said, it was the goal was to just run, and then it was to run a 5K in 40 minutes, and then the first race I signed up for was the Under Armour 10K in Toronto. I started training for it. I had no real aspirations of anything because it was my first race. This was in 2023. It was my first race, and I had no real aspirations of doing anything. But I got a 39-minute 10K, which again I didn't even know if that was good. To be honest with you, I have a video of
That's good.
myself. I have a video of myself. It's on Instagram. But I have a video of myself in the starting corral, and because I had I was training a little bit and I was doing my thing. I had my estimated finish time at a certain time, so they had me with the elite group, and I was like looking around like, what the heck am I doing standing here with these people? They all look fast. Like I was not a runner, so but they all looked like they were really fast, and I held my own. I competed with them. I forget my place, but it was a 39-minute 10K for my first ever race. So right there, I jumped into the next thing. I still to this day I've never raced a half marathon. I went from 10K to marathon. There was sort of no in between. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to try and go hard on it. So I went right to the marathon, and that was an interesting one. It was Toronto Waterfront Marathon was my first one, and I had no real aspirations of time at the beginning. It was just don't die, complete a marathon and get through it.
Yeah.
As I started training, though, I realized I could do this. I could log 30-kilometer long runs, and I could log 70, 80, 90-kilometer weeks. So I realized I could do that and handle the training. Um, so then I decided, hey, let's try and do this whole Boston qualifying thing and see if we can qualify for Boston in my first marathon. I think that'd be pretty cool to do. And then as I got going, I was like, hey, what if I could do a sub 3? I'm starting to hear about people talking about sub 3 marathons. That seems like the cool thing to do. So that ended up being the goal for my first marathon, was to try and sub 3 my first marathon. I didn't do it. My first marathon was 3:03. I did qualify for Boston with my first one, but I didn't get sub 3. And then it was, from there, it's just sort of snowballed into just seeing what I can do. How many kilometers can I log? How better can I get? And just see how far I can push the body.
Yeah, 39 minutes is fast. First of all, right? That is a pretty fast time. So
I
looking
I
back, I was like,
I
yeah,
can tell that now because that was 2023. I just set a PR on my 10K of 37 minutes. So 2 years I've taken 2 minutes off of that. So I can tell
wow.
it is a good time. It is very good.
Yeah, it is. It is elite level time. So yeah. So looking back at the marathon, like obviously you did marathon, and you said looking back at what you sent me, then you have through your post and everything, you have successfully like participated in 4 out of 4 Boston Marathon in last 4 years, right? That's what you
Yeah.
said. So when someone runs a marathon, they have different types of goal, right? Obviously, Boston is something everybody wants to do it, but like what made you decide to run faster? Because even though you said you started in 2023,
Yeah.
your times are incredibly faster than like any normal person, right? So what is the drive for you to get faster and faster?
Yeah. So I mean, at this point, I was at a run club yesterday, and I was talking to the people there, and one of the things I love the most about running is you know tweaking your body. I guess, for the lack of a better example, right? Is that I love playing with different variables, different nutrition habits, different hacks to see how I can get better. Different mobility training, strength training, different ways I can just try and tweak my body and see what it does, right? See how far I can push it. That's really what drives me. It isn't about I guess it is about the time, but it's not about beating people or all those things. It's just how far I can push it. Right? I'm 40 now. I
Yeah.
just turned 40 in April, and then I ran my last marathon in May at 2:49. So I've gotten faster as I'm getting older. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to see how far I can push it. Right? That's really what drives me. I joke that I want to run a marathon when I'm 70 and hopefully still qualify for Boston. Right? I want to see how far I can push it, and before I start to to see the declines, because I'm only getting faster so far as again I'm still new. I'm still learning. I'm still a rookie in this sport, but I'm really curious to see how far I can push it. Right, as I get older, if I can still get faster, that'd be really neat to see. So that's what drives me.
And also, have you thought about ultras? Because running marathon at 240, that's easy peasy. So have you thought about going one step above?
I have, yeah. A lot of people ask me about ultras or Ironmans, that type of thing. I have, and I definitely will at some point for sure run an ultra. I'm running riot relays this Friday, so that's kind of a relay ultra. But
Yeah,
that's something I
I've heard
definitely
about that.
yeah, that's something I definitely will do at some point in my life. Absolutely, whether it's next season or the season after that, I don't know the time frame. But what my thought process currently is, when I start to see myself getting a little bit slower, that's when I'll make the transition to probably to ultra racing. But for right now, I'm really curious to see how fast I can get to the marathon. That is my whole priority and goal right now, is to see how fast I can get there.
And also, you mentioned that you have been a sober. So when did sobriety became part of your story, and what shifted for you mentally and physically once you got the whole thing out?
Yeah, so that happened before I started running, just before. So I got sober in June of 2022. So cut out drinking completely at that point. That was probably a pretty big precursor to me getting into running. Just because, well, a lot of people do shift their focus, right? If they're drinking, they shift the focus to somewhere else, and a lot of times that is endurance sport, which is a great thing to do. Um, but it's been everything. It's been clearer mindset. There's no way I could train the way I do if you're having drinks on the weekend. It's it's not something you can
Yeah,
do, right? In most cases, you can't run a 30K kilometer long run on a Sunday when you're out drinking and partying on the Saturday. So it's just not, the
yeah,
two don't go together, right? So
yeah,
it's been
yeah,
a big focus, and I don't have a lot of free time, right? As you mentioned at the beginning, I have three daughters. I coach all three of their different softball teams. I Running isn't
yeah.
my full time job. It's just a side hobby. So I am a sales director for a marketing agency. So I do have lots of things going on. So that just doesn't play a role in my life anymore. So it's been a big thing from a mental clarity standpoint, physical standpoint. The things I do from a training standpoint, I wouldn't be able to do if I did drink. So that's been a big aspect of it.
I've been around people who drink a lot, and I know it's a real struggle to quit. And how did it motivate you, or at what point did you realize that you need to stop? Because I've seen like my aunts and uncles, like they all died from the liver being burst because they drank just literally too much. So at what point you realize that you need to stop to do this?
Yeah, it just got to a point where it wasn't serving my life anymore. Right? Just I made most people have to come to the conclusion themselves. They can't be told by anybody that they have to cut that aspect of their life out. So
Yeah,
for me, it was just didn't serve a purpose. Right? It was more a hindrance than a positive in any way. So for again, like I go back to when I put my mind to something, I'll do it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So that was just another one of those things. Right? It was doesn't serve any purpose anymore. So get rid of it. It's done. There's no
right.
there's no going back. There's not even a thought process there because that's just the chapter in my life that where that was a part of it is no longer.
Kudos to you, man. It is a very difficult thing to get rid of because once you have that, then it's I've seen, like I said, my aunts and aunties, like they all died from it. So I'm really happy for you that you were able to come through this disease and then push way through it and then running marathon 2:45. So I'm incredibly happy for you to hear that.
Thank you.
So talking about that, he says three marathons in, all BQ qualified. You are now going for the fourth one. So, what has been the evolution in your marathon journey? And since you are now aiming for 245, sub 245.
Yeah. So the biggest the biggest change I've made in my training and so I just did my fourth one in May. That was my fourth one, the Toronto Marathon. The biggest change I made in that training block was it's kind of against what most runners say. The whole 80% of your runs should be easy, 20% should be hard. We've all sort of heard that. I don't do that. I guess I go against the grain a little bit when it comes to that.
Yeah.
I incorporate speed in every one of my days. So every
Okay.
run, I incorporate some sort of speed into my training, whether it's strides at the end of an easy run, whatever the case may be. My legs, I'm always getting them turning over. So typically that my normal training week I structure as like you mentioned. I do run 7 days a week. My Mondays are my rest days. It's usually a recovery run. I don't typically take rest days. So Monday is normally my recovery day, which it's pretty late and easy. But even then, I'll still I'll add in strides at the end of that. Tuesdays are a long tempo run. So Tuesdays are always at marathon pace at the goal race pace. That's my Tuesday. Wednesday is an easy run, but again, I'll incorporate marathon pace into that day normally at the end. Thursdays are my workout days. So 800-meter, kilometer type of thing repeats. Where I'm going a little bit faster, usually half marathon to 10K pace. Fridays again easy, but I do a sort of a medium long run. So that'll normally be a 15 to 20 kilometer run on that day. Again easy, but with marathon pace at the end. Saturday I usually do a fartlek, right? So just playing with different paces usually would be my Saturday, and then Sunday is my long run. And with Sundays, another big thing that I really changed up with not just my last block, but also the Chicago block I did before was I do a lot of long run workouts. So I don't do a lot of you know 35K at super easy pace like a lot of people do. Most of my long runs have blocks of work in them. So 5K
Okay.
at marathon pace, times two, right? So 10K total work, that type of thing. And as I
Yeah.
get progressing through my block, I'll make that a little bit different where it'll be like 21K of work in my long run. So my long runs aren't easy, just casual gingerly with a bunch of buddies type of long runs. There's work in my long runs. I think that made the biggest difference for me for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Needless to say, you like to run solo because you just said you don't like to run with with the
I
buddies when you run
yeah I don't
slow field pace.
yeah I don't I've never been a really big run group guy. Now saying that I just sort of partnered up with a local run group here, the Clarington Run Club, and I'm sort of helping them with their training and doing programming for them because I've just started getting into coaching other athletes, which has been fun and exciting. But I don't typically run with other people. I like to do my own thing when it comes to training, just because I don't train the way most people do. Most people don't
Yeah.
train 7 days a week like I do,
Yes.
or do the volume that I do, or like I said, or add speed for every run. Most people don't do that, so I do typically tend to train on my own.
And also going back to your typical marathon block, you said you run between 100 to 130 kilometers per week, and then you do 6 weeks of strengthening. So how do you manage time for that? All of that?
It is a lot. I do
Yeah.
I post a lot of all my workouts on Instagram and whatnot, and some people have messaged me and asked if this is my full time job, and it isn't. It very much is just a hobby. I very much do have a full time job, but it's just structuring my day. I am an early riser, so I'm usually up by 5 a.m. on most
Mhm.
days, and then typically I'll strength train first thing. So before breakfast on an empty stomach, is when I do my strength training, and I'll strength train 6 or 7 days a week. I'll usually take one strength day off for my long run day. That's when I don't strength train. But typically it's 6 days a week. First thing in the morning before the kids and the wife, everyone is awake. I'm doing my strength training. That's done. Then I'll typically have breakfast with the kids before they're off to school, and then I go for my run before work, and then so I'm usually done training before 9 a.m. So I log all my kilometers, whether it's a long run or strength training. I log it all before 9 a.m. and then work from 9 to 5. I have a desk job. I work from home, so I'm usually here in front of the camera talking to people from 9 to 5, and
Yeah.
then usually after that, like I mentioned earlier, I coach three of my daughter's softball teams. So
Yeah.
the after hours is family time. So I in my own head, I kind of think I have 3 days in one day. It's kind of how I structure it. I have the training day, the work day, and the family day at the end, and it works for me. It works, and it's on weekends. It's different. Obviously, that the block of time in the middle where it's work day now becomes more family time. So weekends are more family time where I get to play outside with the kids and do all that type of stuff. But still train, obviously. But that block of work time becomes a little bit different. But that's how I kind of look at my days, and it's very much regimented in my calendar. It's everything from my strength training to my run to doing this with you today or anything. It's all in my calendar. And if it's in the calendar, it gets done. So that's really what I do for a prioritization standpoint.
And also, when you're doing this incredible amount of volume and strengthening, because you train a lot, how do you avoid being burnt out and like staying injury free?
So I mean, the burnout for me, I've never even gotten close to that. And maybe it's because I'm still new-ish to this, but I mean, I love it. Like I love this. I love the training. I love the running. I love the nutrition aspect of it. I love playing with my body in different ways to see what it can do. I love this stuff. So to me, it's not a I have to do it. I get to do it type of mindset. I enjoy it. Like I really
Yeah.
do. I look forward to waking up in the morning and getting down in my basement gym and throwing weights around and then heading out for getting the shoes on and getting out for a run. Like I love it. So the burnout never creeps into my mind. I haven't had that come up, so I don't know how to avoid it or how to handle it because it just hasn't been something that's come up for me. The injury part, I think the strength training, and I preach on this a lot to a lot of people. The strength training that I do, I think allows me to stay injury free, be able to log all the miles that I do that without no IT flare ups or you know any plantar fasciitis or anything that normal runners tend to get. That's what doesn't happen for me, just because I do so much strength training, my ligaments are in a good spot. Right? They can
Yeah.
handle the pounding because I work on them, and I do a lot. I do a lot of recovery, like when it comes to at night, my wife and I are watching TV. I don't just normally sit on the couch and watch TV. I'll be rolling on a lacrosse ball or rolling on the foam roller and stretching around different muscles. And it's kind of a running joke in my house. You'll never see me kind of standing still. I'm always in some sort of weird position, stretching something or doing some weird movement to do something because I'm trying to. I don't have a lot of free time, so all the free time that I have, I'm doing something.
I was talking with Alex. She was a mobility coach and she was talking about the same thing. She has like a therapy ball, and I bought that therapy ball too. So
Yeah.
she was talking about the same thing, like these micro habits that you have where you can just stay in front, like when you are watching the like TV, like you can be on the floor and you can
Totally.
do watch the TV, but you can also foam roll. So I think you are doing the similar kind of thing. So that's a
Absolutely.
really nice way to just do multiple things in one time.
Absolutely.
And when we are talking about your marathon, and then when you are chasing this elite time, right? So you got a job, you have a family, and then so you said you coach your daughter's baseball team. So what is the real cost of chasing this sort of performance, and then what do you have to sacrifice?
I mean, to be honest, I don't think I sacrifice anything for the goal. I think it makes, if anything, it makes me a better person. To be, frank, my mindset is probably better. I'm a calmer person. I'm everything when I am training. So, if anything, I think it gives me something versus a cost or something taking away. It's as cheesy as it sounds. It's more of an investment than a cost. It doesn't take anything away. Now, if I was, prioritizing my running over my family, right? If I was, saying I can't, go to your baseball game tonight because I got to get a run in, then that would be a problem. But I've, kind of manipulated and structured my days where that isn't the case, right? I do most of my training, all like I said earlier, all of my strength training is done while they're still in bed, right? So there's no issues there. My running is done, when they've gone to school and when just before work, right? So there's no everything sort of has a place right now. And again, I work from home, so I do have the ability. My gym is right there. My gym is in that room. My office is here, so I do have the ability, and I'm lucky enough to be able to fit everything in a proper way. Now, will it always be like this way and this easy for me? Maybe not, but at this point in time in my life, there's no cost right now. It's all just an investment to I'm a better human being because I fit all these things in.
And so we talked about you. You said you were coaching your daughter's team, baseball team, right? So how has that changed in terms of perception towards your own training? Because training kids is difficult. So has that also helped you in a way to better understand your own training and everything?
Yeah, so I've always actually coached them before I even started training. So I was a coach for them before I started training. So I mean, maybe I make them run a little bit more now in practice than I would have in the past. Maybe running drills have been incorporated a little bit more. But no, if anything, I think my kids kind of look at what I do, and I think it's my wife's also very active as well. She trains at different things, not a running, but she trains at different things as well. So we're a very active and healthy family. So I think that if anything, these positive habits that they see in us, you know, are instilled into them. I have three girls, and they all play sports. They all play hockey and baseball and rugby and swim and all the different things. We're a very busy family, but we're a very active family, which I think is what you want, and you want your kids to see those types of habits versus other habits that maybe aren't as positive. These are the positive habits that we want them to see and carry on into the future.
When you are running at this incredible time, right? So how does your fueling strategy, or what is your typical food that you eat pre-run, pre-workouts, and then during your workout when you're training? Like, how does that look like?
So I like to eat. Food is a big thing for me. But again, I'm kind of counterintuitive when it comes to fueling for my runs. Again, a lot of people are not going to like anything that I say for the next 2 minutes, but when it comes to fueling on my runs, I really don't. So
Oh,
I know again that's a big faux pas for a lot of people, but it's worked for me,
yeah.
so I haven't changed it yet. But I found that when I go on my long runs, I don't fuel. I'll have breakfast. I'll eat breakfast in the morning, but I'll go on a 35K run. I don't take water. I don't take a gel. I don't take anything.
Wow.
I run. Now if I do a long run workout, like if I do a 36K run and 5 kilometers by 3 repeats in that run or something like that, I'll take one gel maybe just to give a little bit of kick with me. But I usually train other than breakfast. I normally go for my runs with no fuel because I find on race day, then when I add fuel, it's just that sort of next gear, right? Because I can typically get through a long run easily. I'm fine, but there's no issues there. And then when I add that fuel on race day, it really makes a big impact. So that's worked well for me. It's been a real big sort of cheat code for me so far. It hasn't. Again, I don't. a lot of people say, "Oh, that's going to hurt you, and you're not going to be able to train as well." I was like, "Well, I still log hundreds of kilometers, so
Yeah.
that hasn't really been an
Yes.
impact for me." And that way, I recover well. I wake up the next morning ready to go again, so that hasn't really impacted me there. Whether it's that's just my body or whatever. I don't tell people to do that, but it's just that's what I've done. So there's one staple in my sort of nutrition and fueling is I do this overnight oat concoction that is normally my breakfast of choice before every race. Whether it's proper for fueling, I don't know. It's kind of like a habit where I feel like I wouldn't perform if I didn't have it now at this point. It's like my lucky race day meal. But yeah, that's about it. And then on race day, if it's a marathon, I do take my gels. So I normally will have one gel every five kilometers. Is sort of the typical protocol on how I follow from a fueling standpoint.
Yeah.
But that's about it. No water other than aid stations. That's about it.
Do pointless to say. Do you even stop at the water station? Because like, how do you even manage 245 if you stop at the water station? Or do you carry your own water?
Yeah, I'll like all the runners, I pass by the water stations and grab it as I go and have a drink. But there's no water vest or there's no nothing like that. It's just go.
I talked to Timothy, and your and his filling strategy is kind of similar. But he also does not take anything or drink any water. So like you, he runs like every day 20 kilometers. I think he is averaging around 100 miles, over 100 miles. So his goal is
Yeah,
to do 5100 miles in a year. So he's been
nice.
chasing that. So yeah, so he also does the same thing, no water. So he typically eats the night before, and then that is his fuel. So it's kind
Yeah.
of an interesting approach, like how you guys are doing it. So we probably have to make a case study and see how it is impacting, or how you are doing it consistently so well, because it's just not one day, right? Because you've been doing this for so long. So there has to be some sort of something is happening,
Yeah.
even if it is your dinner or something, but something is really taking with the guy. So it's probably very good case study, so if somebody wants to do it.
Yeah, I do fuel. I usually do, again, counterintuitive, but I do fuel the night before. So I usually eat not right before bed, but I do have the same kind of, again, this homemade concoction that I make. It's like oats and cocoa powder and protein powder and milk and bananas, and it's all mixed up together. I do have that every night before bed, so I do have a
Okay.
good carb source of and protein right before I go to bed. So that does fuel me for a while before in the morning. Like I said, I do have breakfast before I go on my runs, but
Yeah.
no fuel mid run. It's straightforward.
Yeah, I mean the distances. If you're not taking any fuel for 35 kilometers, then that's incredible. Like it's because you need to. I mean, I need to. I take three. I think three gels for running 35 kilometers, and I run at much slower pace than you. And also, let's take a moment to reflect on the right relay
Yep.
140 kilometers that you guys did, and then you guys obviously won. I mean,
Yeah.
because everybody is faster on your team. When you look at that event, and obviously you run marathons and you do a lot of solo runs by yourself. So how was that feeling where you were running as a team?
Yeah, it was probably the most. I mean, we've all kind of talked about it now since the weekend, but it's probably the most experience of my life, to be to be honest. Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously used to running marathons or races on my own, but being part of a team and just being in that environment, in the van, everyone pulling for each other, and everyone on the struggle bus literally together, it was just an incredible experience. Sharing with that group of friends, it was amazing, and we're all the team was put together for a reason. We wanted to win. We wanted to do well. We were all sub 3 marathoners, so we had a really fast team. We broke
Yeah,
the course record by a little over 2 hours. So we actually got to the finish line before they had the finish line set up. They didn't expect anybody to be there by at least 10 a.m. and we got there by
amazing.
7:30 a.m. So it was incredible. It was absolutely amazing. But yeah, I couldn't. You can't even really put it into words what the experience was like.
You have been running solo, and this is a group effort. So, how was the mindset compared
Yeah,
to by just running by yourself alone?
yeah, it was different. Honestly, a few people asked me that now since the race, and it was different. Like when I'm out there, obviously when I'm racing, I'm still trying to hit paces. I'm still trying to hit the times I'm trying to achieve. But when I'm running with that group, I was almost running for them too, right? So I was almost in my mind thinking, I want to hit these paces because you know this person just ran before me and they did really well, and I want to hold my end of the bargain and do really well for them. And it really was that team aspect, everyone pulling the weight, and it was a different mindset. It really was just different versus you're not just doing it for yourself, you're doing it for the full team. So it was different than I've ever experienced, but it was incredible.
This relay is built of eight different people. I did a little bit of research on it. And then there is obviously the team dynamics. And what was the harder aspect of the race? Because when you are running solo, it just you can do everything, whatever you want, right? But when you are
Yeah.
going in a group, so what was the harder part for you? The physical effort or like managing between the team coordination and also focusing between your legs because you run two times, right? So like
Yeah.
what was the harder for you?
I think the hardest part was probably the breaks in between the legs. So the way we structured our run, I didn't run until around 1 a.m. So we started at 10 p.m. and I didn't run until 1 a.m. So I had about 3 hours sitting on the bus, obviously cheering on everybody and doing all that. But so that sort of 3 hour window, I was getting antsy because I'm a volume runner. I run every day. I like to run. I like to get out there. So watching everybody run was interesting. So that piece, and then my first leg was a very interesting leg. It was they put two legs together for me, so I had 7 and 8 together, and it was a very hilly course. It was about 150 meters of elevation gain on that route, and I kept a 3:55 average kilometer pace for the full 12 kilometers. And it was actually I got to one stretch where it actually turned off into a trail, so it ended up being a trail run as well. And as soon as I
Nice.
got onto the as soon as I got onto the trail, my headlamp went out. The only light I had was 1 a.m. Only light I had was from the bike pacer behind me, and he was trying to give me a little bit of light as I'm navigating. And I'm running pretty fast through the trail system in pitch black with no lights. So I was just waiting for it to step on a rock or step on a hole and be done. But we didn't. We got through it. We got through that stretch and we finished. So and then after that, I got back on the bus. Everyone goes through their thing. So I think I had another couple hours stretch where I'm you know sort of stiffing back up and getting not getting loose. I'm getting the opposite of loose. And then I had another 12K stretch after that I had to take care of, and that one was that one was pretty tough. That was yes with a mindset. That one was interesting because I was hurting already from the first run, and at the very beginning of that last 12K, there was a massive hill, just absolutely crazy. And I saw that was probably the first time in my mind since I started running where I had doubt that I may have to just stop. I may not be able to get through it because I was already hurting pretty bad. But once I finally got to the top of that hill, I kind of joked with the team. I kind of just blacked out. It was just I zoned in and just sort of nothing else really mattered. And I told my pacer, the bike that was following along, I said at that point, you can go if you want. I'm good now. I'm ready to go. And I finished that leg at 3:52 average kilometer pace for 12K. So I locked in and just kept my leg turning and didn't worry about the pain and just kept going till the end. And that was when I finished that leg. I knew that my running was done for that one. I was over the moon. I was so happy, and then I got to bike in our leader Luke. He's our captain. I got to bike him in to finish off. So it was just overall, just can't put it into words. It was just amazing, tremendous experience.
And also, as this is a team event and you are running or racing as a part, so how did like racing as a team like changed your approach compared to while you're running solo? Because when you're running solo, like you said, you just go and like you can just run for 42 kilometers and be done with it. But here you have to cheer on and then stop a little bit and then go on it. So just from your
Yeah,
personal experience, like what was the change?
yeah. It was. I think that was the funnest part. Being on the bus with the team and cheering everybody on. I think that was probably the best part of the whole experience. Like we've all as a team we've all sort of talked about that since. There was one part of the race where the team went off course a little bit, and we got a little bit lost, and our poor runner had to run an extra 4 kilometers that he wasn't planned,
Right.
and he was already hurting at that point too, so he had to run an extra. So we all, as a team and the bus, we all went back to them and asked, "Are you okay? You need help?" And we're all like, "Man, if you need us to run, we'll run for you. We'll switch out, whatever you need. We're here for you." And everyone just sort of rallied around him, and it was just it was amazing. That was that team aspect that you don't get normally as a runner. As a runner, it really is a solo sport. You don't get that team aspect very often, and that was probably the coolest part. That was really interesting. So yeah, when you're out there running, the mindset piece where you're trying to hit these paces for the team, the broader group, but being on the bus with the team, cheering everybody on, it's something you never get as a runner. And that was probably the really coolest part. And I got that when I was a kid and younger, teenagers being in different sports. But like I said, as a runner, you don't get that experience. And it was really, really cool to experience that again.
What did this ride relay 140 kilometer taught you that 42.2 kilometer have not yet?
So like I said, this was the first time ever in a run. I've 4 marathons, lots of long runs. This was the first time I've ever doubted that I could finish a run. And I did it. Right.
Oh,
So this was the first
yeah.
time in a career as a runner that I really thought, I may have to just DNF this leg and get somebody else to come in. It really did cross my mind for the first time ever. So that was interesting, and that was I've heard other runners talk about that, and that whole will and that mindset to overcome that and keep pushing on. I'd never really experienced it. Not to brag, but the marathons I've never really got close to bonking or hit the wall. I've been able to push through pretty easily, not easily, but I was able to do it. This was the first time where I was like, God, this may be out of the cards. I may not be able to do it, and we got it done. So that was something that taught me about myself, that I knew I can do hard things, but that I can get to the wall of wanting to quit and continue on. So that was something that I hadn't experienced yet in running, that it taught me that I can do, which I think will help me in the future when I try and hit faster paces in the marathon. But know that I can push forward if I feel the pain and feel that I want to quit. I know I can push forward.
How much were you tired as compared to running a marathon, where you have to sit in between and wait for everything? The fatigue
This
was
was a
pretty much,
next.
I
This
guess.
was a next. This was next level tired. This was so. I mean, so Friday morning I got up at my normal 5 a.m. Did my normal strength training. I didn't run. I saved the run piece. I did my normal routine, so I was still up at my normal time. And then the race didn't start till 10 p.m. And we didn't sleep on the bus. There was no sleeping. It was we're just
Yeah.
go. So, you know, my last leg started at sunrise. So I got to see the sunrise, which was really cool on that last leg. Started in the dark and then finished in the sunrise. So my last 12K started at around 4 a.m. So basically 24 hours of no sleep, having already run 12K, being on the bus, cheering everybody on, that adrenaline rush and then dump and then rush and then dump, and then
Yeah.
having to push forward for another 12K. It was just next level, next level tired. You don't get in the 42.2, right? It's just get out of there.
Oh,
Usually a 7:30, 8 o'clock start. Get there, get done. You're done. You can go out, go home, and relax. This was just next level that I've never experienced before, and something I'll cherish. It was a memory I'll never forget.
that's how the trail runner does. Like, but they keep running from midnight to run. It's hard
Yeah,
thing to do.
very hard.
It is hard. So coming back and talking about your shoes and stuff, because you run a lot, right? So
Yeah.
what type of shoes do you use for the rotation and things?
Yeah, so right now I got New Balance is my primary shoes that I use. The Elite 4s are what I race in. I have one pair for racing, and I have another pair of Elites that I use for workouts. So I got two different pairs for those. I use the trainers, the SC Elite trainers, for my normal, just easy run recovery runs. And then I also have a pair of Adidas Ideal Zeros for just same thing, just recovery, just to keep us cycle. So I have four right now on the go. I usually keep them for about 1,000 to 1,200 kilometers before I switch them out, depending. Every shoe wears differently, but that's my normal rotation of shoes. But I typically have three or four on the go every so often. I do run. The kilometers add up pretty quickly. I'm usually covering 100 kilometer weeks, so they add up pretty quickly. So you gotta have shoes in the rotation to be able to get all the work done.
Definitely. And also when you are running, like a lot of us run through based on heart, some based on pace, because if they are trying to get some marathon pace and you run incredibly fast. So how do you run when you are training for something? Is it based on the heart rate or like a power zones or just
Yeah.
based on effort?
I like to go off even when I'm talking to some of the runners that I work with. I'm big on effort, perceived effort, because heart rate there's so many different variables when it goes with heart rate and how well you
Mhm.
slept the night before. I noticed that during this run, my heart rate was higher than it during
Yeah,
this relay race. My heart rate was higher than it normally is for runs because of lack of sleep. But there's so many different variables: stress, sleep, all the different things can impact heart rate. So, if I'm trying to go for an easy recovery type run, I can really feel it on my body, and I go more on that. I do check my heart rate to make sure, if it's an easy run, I want to stay below 135. Kind of is the range I want to stay on. So every occasionally I'll check my watch to make sure, but I really go on perceived effort because I want to make sure I'm hitting that effort. I don't want to be overexerting on an easy run. And also on the other side, when I'm doing a workout, I want to be pushing. I want to be at that level, so I want to make sure that my body's feeling the effort, or I have to go harder if need be.
the fueling is very important aspect of running, right? So because you need to fuel, and obviously when you're running a marathon, then that's probably one of the biggest thing, because we want to keep fueling ourselves when we're running, especially when you're running at 245 or 240. Then you need to like eat gels or whatever at a particular time. So how do you, or what is your fueling strategy for the long run or the races? Are you the one that like try to put everything on a spreadsheet, or you just eat whenever you feel like eating?
So during training, I do eat a lot. You can ask my wife. I consume a lot of food. I typically have, I'll say 5 to 6 meals per day. I do. I am pretty regimented when it comes to how I eat and what I eat, and I don't get sick of foods. So I'm lucky enough that way. I can get I can get in the same rotation of the same meals, and I don't get sick of them, which makes feeling easy because I can just sort of dial that in. I
Mhm.
don't have to have variety and figure out, is this going to be okay? Is that going to be good? I can stick to the same, yogurt bowls and the same different types of snacks and fried rice at lunch. I have these same types of meals that I consistently have, and I post them on Instagram. People, if that are listening, they follow me, they know my sort of routine. But I stick to that kind of approach for fueling just in general. When it comes to long runs, I'm kind of weird with how I fuel my long runs. I don't really fuel my long runs, which is kind of a faux pas for for most runners. And people I've told this, they think I'm kind of crazy for it. But if it's a long run workout where I'm going to have a lot of work in it, maybe I'll have one gel I'll take with me for the runs. But I don't bring water. I don't bring water on my long runs. It's just I'll have normally for my long runs I'll have breakfast beforehand and some water and some electrolytes, and then I just go. So I don't fuel too much on the run, and I think that's giving me it gives me a little bit of an edge. I think on race day because then when I add that fuel on race day, it just gives me that added boost that I get. So I already know from doing the long runs, I already know I can do the work at this certain level, not unfueled, kind of. And then when I get to the race, and then when I add fuel in, it just gives me that extra boost that really works well. And on race day, um, I do tend to have I don't have the same breakfast every single race, whether it's a quick 5K race or a marathon. It's almost like it's not even a fueling part. It's kind of a mindset. I think I have to have this overnight oat thing. It gives me confidence. So I have this overnight oat bowl that I have before every race. And then fueling wise, I use gels, and I usually the process is one gel every 5 kilometers. It's kind of what I do. I don't bring water on the marathon with me. I just use the water stations for my water intake. But yeah, usually a gel every 5 kilometers has been the protocol so far. I don't.
So the overnight oat is the success, or the overnight oat is the secret ingredient for
That's
your
the
fast running. Then,
that's the key to all my success, man. It's the overnight oats. Without the overnight oats, I don't know what I do. That's the that's the, that's the thing. You take that away, that's my kryptonite.
yeah. Recovery is also pretty big part, right? Because when you, especially you said you run and then you go and you work out in the afternoon or morning based on when you do your thing. So how is your recovery? And also you talked about the sobriety helping you with this, and it has given you a upper hand.
Yep.
So how did it give you upper hand, and how does your recovery look like?
Yeah. So recovery. I mean, sleep's obviously a big one, and sleep, I think, in sobriety, with no alcohol consumption, goes hand in hand. I think in a lot of ways. So recovery is sleep's a big one. I'm in bed by usually the same time every night. I'm in bed by 9:30. It's kind of the normal
Yeah.
protocol, and up by 5:30 is kind of my go-to. So I do get enough sleep to recover, but I use all the tools. So massage gun, lacrosse ball, rolling out all the muscles, foam roller, all those different things. I don't do a lot of static stretching, but I do a lot of mobility work. Usually in the evenings, I'll just do around with some different mobility work to make sure I'm loosening everything up and nothing's getting tight. I think the strength training that I do plays a big role in my recovery. Pre-recovery, it keeps me uninjured. So I strength train every day. So usually 6 to 7 days a week. I typically strength train in the mornings, and I think that it allows me to log all these kilometers and stay injury free. So I have never, since I started running, I've never had any nagging injuries. I've never been injured at all. So I've been able to consistently keep running, without stopping, and that plays a big role in my recovery. From a non-alcohol sobriety standpoint, that's kind of that allows me to train. I don't think I definitely wouldn't be able to train the way I do to the extent that I do with drinking drinking on the weekends or
Yeah.
having alcohol. It wouldn't be possible, right? So you got that obviously
No.
plays a big role in it. Be healthy in general, but to be able to push my body to the limits that I do, it allows me to bounce back and recover because I don't have that depletion of everything that alcohol brings. So
Yeah.
that definitely helps out a bit in a big way.
Looking back now, right? So, like, obviously before you drank, and I know the same thing, because when I drink something, then my stress is way up, and then the next day it sucks, and then I
Yep.
also cannot drink more than one. I'm like buzzed all the time, so I don't even drink anymore. I Most of the time I drink non-alcoholic beverages.
Yep.
So in your particular case, so when you look at yourself now, and then when you look at yourself before, like when you were drinking, would you have believed that the John before that used to drink would do this incredible thing that you are doing right now?
No, 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 no. That the previous meal I've talked about this. I've posted these types of things, but no, the John previously doesn't. He didn't even think about running. Running wasn't a. I would have laughed if John today told John, previously you're going to run marathons and do these crazy relay adventure races. I would have just laughed and probably said go away, because that was never a thing that I thought. It just didn't cross my mind. That was never a thing that I thought my body would even be possible of doing. I used to strength train a little bit, and my cardio was, maybe I'll do a kilometer on the treadmill walking was like my cardio. I never would have thought, like when I signed up for my first marathon, that was kind of a, everyone kind of did, what are you doing? That's not, you don't run marathons. That's not something you do. So yeah, no, I definitely wouldn't have been able to do any of these types of things, nor would I even have attempted them or even thought that it was possible.
That's nice. And I'm glad now you don't drink, so it's good that, especially like I said, I've seen like how bad it is, and then like I've seen my aunt and uncle died from it. So I'm really glad that you were able to totally get rid of it, and now you're just kicking ass and running 245.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah,
And
it's,
also,
well, sorry,
yeah,
I think it's,
go ahead.
to each their own, but it's, yeah, for me, it was getting rid of that from my life was just the greatest thing I could have ever done, right? Because I never would have been able to have, meet the people I've met, have the experiences I've experienced, still having that as part of my life. So it's just, it completely has, changed my life for the better.
Definitely. We talked about earlier on, or when you sent me all the things that you wanted to achieve, and you said you wanted to do sub 245, and you said sub 17 for 5Ks, and then sub 35 for the 10Ks. Those are pretty aggressive, even for you, because even though you run fast, those are like very, very aggressive paces. So, what is that fire that keeps you and chasing this thing that keeps pushing you over the limit?
It's just trying to be constantly better. It's just, whether I get these goals or not, which I think I will, but whether I achieve them or not, it's just about getting better, right? So it's about the process of trying to get there versus getting there. Because for me, whether I, get sub 245 or any of these sort of numbers, when I get them, I'm just going to move. I'm going to move the goalpost down the road
Forward.
further, right? I'm just gonna keep making the goal a little more challenging, right? Until I can't possibly do it, but I'll still be trying to achieve it, right? So it's just that process of constantly getting better to try and get to that goal. That's what I enjoy, right? So really, for me, it's not about getting the goal to check the box and say I did it, because typically, when I'm in a training block, if I get to a point where I think 245 is, definitely achievable, like I'm definitely going to hit these goals because my paces, I'm hitting them easily. By come race day, I'll probably adjust the A goal.
40.
the the A goal will probably become 243, right? Because I've never hit my goal. Every race I've done, I've never achieved it because I've always gotten to a point where I think I can, and I say that the goal is a little more challenging than that. So it's all for me. It's just about and I do this for a lot of different aspects of my life, not just running, whether it's business or personal. I set goals that I think are way out there, way hard to achieve. Because for me, like I said, it is just that process of getting there and knocking all these, knocking down all these blocks as I go. That's what it's all about. It's not about hitting the end goal. It's about achieving all these milestones along the way.
Talking about you, like earlier on we talked a little bit about it. So you got a packed life, right? So you have to work, and then you do strengthen in the morning, and sometimes you have life and everything, then sometimes you're tired, it happens to everybody, and there is nothing left in the tank, but you still need to go and perform, like example the right relay where you have
Yeah,
to be awake all night, and then you have to go and again do your 12 km like last in the morning. So where do you get that on these kind of things where you are very low on the power and energy, but you still go and you have to go and perform?
yeah. That I wish I knew what that was. I've always been able to, you know, sounds corny, but I guess rise to the occasion. I always have energy. I don't ever get. I'm never really exhausted. Usually at the end of the day, I'm exhausted. When it's time to go to bed, my wife and I, she jokes when I put the book down at night and I'm ready to go to bed, I sort of just power off. It's sort of hit the power switch and I just go right to bed. And
Yeah.
she's like, I don't like that. Why do you do that? Because I can't fall asleep that easily. So I get to the point where I'm exhausted and I fall asleep. But when it's during the day, I'm usually full of energy. And I am busy. I strength train in the morning, then I run, then I work. I have three girls, and I coach their different sports, and I'm active in their lives, obviously. So I'm a busy guy. I coach runners, part of a run club that I lead, and I coach a bunch of runners as well. So I'm busy, and I have lots of stuff going on, but I always have the energy. I always, when I got to the end of my runs on Riot Relay, I still had energy. I was still jumping around, bouncing around, and got raised back, and said I could do some more. If anybody needs it, I can run a little bit more if need be. So I always tend to have that energy. I don't know where it comes from. It's just in me. I want to achieve things. So the energy is always there.
And talking about your kids, before the riot relays, they have seen you cross the marathons and do these incredible distances at a short amount of time. But now they have seen you do the relays as well. So what do they think? Do they think the dad is like a badass, or dad is like a little bit nuts? Like what are their thoughts?
They do. They think it's pretty cool. I know my wife sent me a picture of my daughter holding a first place sign that she created on Friday before the race started. She created a first place sign
Wow.
because she knew it was happening. She knew it was going to happen. So that was really cool. I thought that was really awesome when I saw that picture. When I got home, my kids were excited. They ran and gave me big hugs and said they were proud of me. They think it's cool. They're also teenage girls, so they're not going to come out usually and say, "Dad, you're the coolest thing in the whole history of the world." But I can tell they're proud. I can tell they think it's pretty neat, the things that I'm doing, and that's all that matters. They're going to see this, and whether they're when they're 20 or 30, they'll look back and hopefully they've learned something and they see that I push through hard things and do different things, and hopefully that rubs off on them, and then they do that as well, and then that rubs off on their kids, and so on and so on. I'm creating positive influences on their life versus negative influences, and that's really all I could do, right? So I really do this for them. I joke that I want to live to be able to run with my great great grandkids. That's my goal in life. Whether that's 120 years old, it doesn't matter. I want to get there. So I'm doing all the steps in my life to be able to do that. Whether it's obviously no alcohol, working out, staying healthy, eating right, all those things. I do it for them. I don't do it for myself per se to achieve goals. It's ultimately for them to be a positive influence in their life.
I think toss a little bit of it, like this hitting a wall, and when you were doing this riot relay, and you were at one point you considered like, God, geez, I got a DNF, I cannot do this. So, what changed for you, and you were able to cross your remaining distance?
It was a fleeting moment. It was one moment when I looked at that hill and I was like, I don't think I can do that hill. It was daunting. And it popped in my head. Maybe you know there's other good runners on this team. Maybe I should just tap on them on the shoulder and be like, hey, you got this. But it was a fleeting moment. It passed pretty quickly, and once I got because I know it's just a hill. I've run hills before, whether I'm tired or not. Maybe just pull the pace back a bit, and then everything that goes up comes down. So there's going to be a downhill on the other
Yeah.
side, right? I knew that. And our guy who was doing logistics, Khalil, he did an amazing job, sort of planning our routes. And he told me before I went on that run that it's a pretty good downhill stretch. You got flat terrain after that, so I kind of knew once I got to the top of that hill, I was going to be able to sort of lock in. And that's the hardest part is as a runner, when you get to hard places, you kind of want to be able to zone out. You kind of want to just be able to rely on muscle memory and just keep the legs turning over and not think about the pain, not think about anything. That's hard to do when you're going uphill. Right? When you're already tired and you're grinding up a hill, it's hard to lock out because everything hurts so bad.
Yeah.
So that was the place that was the most challenging. But once I got up to the top of that hill and looked down, I could see the horizon. I saw there was some good downhill stretches and some good flat areas. I knew that's when I could lock in. And like I said, that's when I told my biker, you can go. He was going to run. He was running next. That was kind of our routine. The biker would be the guy who was going to run next. So I told him, if you want, you can go ahead now because I know I'm good. I can lock in now, hit the paces. Like I said, I finished that stretch 3:52 average pace. So I was able to lock in, keep my legs turning, and just get over that initial speed bump and then push forward.
And where was the overnight oats in this? Maybe
I didn't
that
get
was the
those.
reason. But
I didn't get
yeah.
fueling was it was there wasn't a lot of fueling on these races because most of us had never done a race like this before. We're all road runners. We're all marathoners or that type of distance on the roads. None of us are trail runners. So none of us had ever experienced a race like this. So most of us brought that type of fuel. It was some gels here or there, some bars. Luckily,
Good.
our driver did. She made us peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, so we did have those on the bus with us. So those helped big time. But there wasn't a lot of fueling. So it was lack of sleep and lack of fuel, but just go. It was kind of the mindset that we went with, but it worked. It worked for us. So we ran a beautiful race. It was there's nothing I would really change in how we ran the race. It was perfect. But yeah, fueling. There was no overnight oats. The fueling definitely wasn't there, but we were still able to get the work done.
These are the questions I had for you. So the next round is called the rapid fire. So I'll just ask you a
Okay.
bunch of questions and whatever answers come to your mind. So favorite pair of running shoes right now?
The New Balance Elite trainers, so comfy.
One race that's on your bucket list.
Boston in April 2026. That's been the goal from the beginning.
Most humbling workout.
I would say the Yasso 800s is a humbling workout.
Yeah, especially at your pace. Yes.
It's tough. It's tough, man, but it's a good one.
What pace do you hit? 250 while you're running? Yes.
What pace?
Yeah. What pace? 250? 230?
For my last Yasso workout, it was a 2:47. So it was 2 minutes and 47 seconds per 800 meters.
Yeah. I was close. 250
You're close.
was
You're right
close.
there. Right there.
Strength training, love it or you tolerate it?
I absolutely love it. That's the foundation for my success.
Morning runs or evening runs?
Morning. Absolutely.
Post race indulgence.
Post race, I don't typically eat after a race right away. I like to settle down, let my body get back to homeostasis a little bit. I do like to have pasta though. Pasta is a good post race recovery meal. I enjoy that.
One thing most runner totally overthink.
The race day clothing, the race day outfit.
And most underrated habit that keeps you going.
Most underrated, I would say, is strength training. A lot of runners forget about strength training and just overlook it.
Yeah.
Don't fit it in their schedule. That is the key to my success.
Yeah, feels like I've been called out, but yes.
Most people have.
Yeah, I think the issue with most of runners is because we all know we need to do it, but it's just one thing to do, so it never
Cool.
gets done.
Absolutely.
So one final question before we hang up. I would like you to finish this sentence, please. Running has changed my life because
It's given me everything. It really is. It's running to me is everything. It's changed my life in every way imaginable. It's given me experiences that I never thought I'd be able to be experiencing, and yeah, I owe it all to running. So running is everything to me.
all right. Yeah, I think that is it. And just you're a machine, and I appreciate you giving your time. And you run incredibly fast, and
Thank you.
it's nice to see that you kind of change everything about you, and then you're in this journey where you're chasing this incredible time, and maybe you'll do ultras too one day.
One day, maybe.
So
One day.
yeah, I'm gonna look for that journey where you start doing ultras and then doing it at a very fast pace. I really appreciate your time and thank you for doing this.
Great. Thank you so much, Ash. Really appreciate it.
Yep, yeah, thank you, and then see you next time.
All right. Take care.
Hey everyone, thank you for making it to the end of the podcast. I hope you really enjoy this conversation. I'll see you again next time with another guest. Until then, happy running.